How you doing? It's the Butcher here, and today, as promised, I'm going to bring you the build that I am going to be starting at Season 3 with. Worked on it quite a bit, tested some things in game, and as you can see up top here, I'm going to be playing a penetrating shot / rapid fire rogue build. And I think this is going to be pretty nasty. And that reason being, as I kind of mentioned in my last video, so we had basically last season was kind of the season of overpower. Before that, it was heavily like crit and vulnerable. Those got nerfed into the ground. So now we're really left, I think, with dot damage. So I think dot damage is going to be very, very strong in Season 3, especially with some of the construct powers. So first things first, I'm going to go over the skill tree here. Then I'm going to go over the gear and skills. I don't have a Paragon board yet. I will work on that before the season. Not really important right away. Obviously, you got to get to level 50 before that really matters. But I actually don't have a leveling path in yet, but I'll do that afterwards. So by the time you see this, it will have a leveling path, and this link will be in the description. So first things first, we're taking Puncture, no shock, and we're taking that into Fundamental. Then we're taking 5 points into both Penetrating Shot and Rapid Fire. We're taking the Rapid Fire into Improved, so we can, and you'll see what the Vulnerable is going to do to us for this build. Gain 15 energy per cast of Rapid Fire when it damages a vulnerable enemy, which is pretty nuts, so that we can keep spamming it. This is one of the best single target abilities or skills in the game. And then we have Penetrating Shot, which is a great AoE skills. So that's how we're kind of going to work these in tandem. We're taking this into what has been changed, which is improved Penetrating Shot. So Penetrating Shot deals an additional 10% increased damage per enemy it hits. So as it goes through, we'll deal tons and tons of damage. And then we're also taking Sturdy here for the DR. Down here, we're going to be taking 3 into Weapon Mastery. We're going to be using a regular bow. So we're going to get 12% multiplicative damage to vulnerable enemies. Very good. Taking 1 into Shadow Step, and we're taking 1 into Dash for some mobility. We're not using Dark Shadow, but we're getting it through the Umbrous aspect, and we're going to take that into Subverting for the movement speed. Then we're going to take 3 into Exploit, 3 into Malice. Then we're going to come down here, we're going to max out Poison Imbue, and we're going to take that into Blended. And then we are going to take 3 points into Deadly Venom, 3 points into Debilitating Toxins, 1 point into Alchemist Advantage. And then down here, we are going to take, this one I'm a little bit unsure on at the moment. I might get rid of Haste and opt for Precision Imbuement instead. We'll have to see. Actually, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take out Haste, actually, for Precision Imbuement, like so, and then put the other point into Intervention so we can keep our energy up. Let me just save that real quick. So since we're going to be looking to take, so leveling up, I would probably take Haste and anything with movement speed just to move through faster, but you'll see we'll actually be getting plenty of movement speed when we get to our gear, so we should be fine on that front. So like I said, we're taking all of these. We're taking 1 into Alchemist Advantage for some more attack speed, 3 into Precision Imbuement for that crit strike chance, specifically for the blended Poison Imbuement. And then we're taking Frigid Finesse here, and we're actually not going to be using the classic Penitent Greaves. You're going to see how we're actually going to be able to get Chill. And then, like I said, 3 into Intervention, keep our energy up. And then we're actually going to be using the Victimize key passive here. And there's a couple of reasons for this that I'll get into. But, what was I going to say? Sorry. But that is a skill tree. And eventually, some things might get moved around as we get different gear later on. For example, Shaco is obviously something we want. If we get a Shaco, we just drop these 2 points. We can put those 2 points, back into here. Even more lucky hit over here. Whatever we want to do there. So that is the skill tree. Okay, and then if we go over to the gear. So like I said, there's a couple things going on here that I want to emphasize. So one is the use of Eagle Horn. So we are first of all giving up our two-handed slot. So unfortunately, we don't get to put a two-handed or a double, basically, legendary aspect on there, unfortunately. But the thing that they changed that makes this so good is now anytime you shoot any enemy with penetrating shot, you make them vulnerable for 3 seconds, and then every fourth cast bounces off the walls and scenery and deals an extra 20 to 40% bonus damage. And this I think, is going to be really good with this victimized key passive. I think we're constantly, with how high our lucky hit's going to be, constantly getting those explosions, and we're going to stack a bunch of vulnerable and constantly get those explosions. And what it's also going to do is, since there's not really a good source of healing, I thought about taking the healing stone here, but I'm not exactly sure how it works. So this is why I wanted to go with this. We're able to also use this cruel sustenance key passive here as our source of healing to keep us alive and keep us pretty damn tanky while we just do a ton of dot damage. So the build: helmet, total armor, poison imbuement, basic skill, attack speed, max life, and then the Umbris on there to grant us the dark shrouds, and we should have a bunch of those up at all times, so a bunch more movement speed and a ton of DR. It's just a great aspect and a great skill just in general. Like I said, the cruel sustenance on here, and then your classic DR chest piece. So total armor, distant, close, and then I have poison down here, and then kind of same thing with our pants, total armor, distant, close, and here I just have flat damage reduction. So one thing I do want to mention is, so ideally, this is kind of starting off here, obviously no Uber Uniques in here, but as we farm for Uber Uniques, which should be a pretty, big part of the game again, if we're able to slap a Shaco on here, without a Shaco, with 3 total armors, we should be able to hit the armor cap without Disobedience or that new Juggernaut one. But when we do get the Shaco, we will drop Might, and then we'll throw on most likely Disobedience right here. So just keep that in mind. But at the moment, we shouldn't really need Disobedience. So then on the gloves, we are going to be rocking the Corruption aspect. So I'm between putting this on the amulet and the accelerating aspect. I opted for more attack speed for now. This might change. We might flip these two. But either way, we improve our potency against vulnerable enemies. And like I said, everything should be vulnerable all the time. So that's really good. We should be doing a ton of damage. And like I said, these could switch depending if we want more attack speed or more damage. But on here, we want ranks of penetrating shot, ranks of rapid fire, lucky hit, and attack speed. Like I said, our pants, just your damage reduction pants. Boots, movement speed, triple resistance, and then we want an additional charge of Shadow Step. So we're able to keep ourselves unstoppable because of the metamorphosis anymore. Then, like I said, the Eagle Horn, which I think is going to shine with the changes they made to it. We're also able to get crit strike chance here, since we won't be able to take it on our gloves since we're taking ranks to 2 of the core skills. We actually kind of make up for it by being able to get it on our weapon. And then if we want to move over to our 2 daggers here, again, one of these potentially down the line could be a Doombringer. I'll be honest, after using Doombringer a lot in Season 2, I don't think it's all that, to be honest. It's good defensively. It actually kind of stinks offensively, quite frankly. So we'll have to see how things shake out once I start adding Uber Uniques to this and things like that. But for now, on both of them, we want Dex, all stats, and vulnerable for sure. And then I have Core here. I think I want Core. There was an interaction in Season 2 where Core actually wasn't helping your poison imbuement. I would expect that to be fixed, but if it's not, we're probably going to swap that out for something like damage over time, something along those lines. But Core, if it works right, would be ideal. Same thing on both daggers, and then we have the Pestilent points, and we have the Bursting Venom, so we're able to constantly keep our poison imbue up. On our amulet, we're looking for energy cost reduction, movement speed, ranks of all imbuements, and then I have ranks of deadly venom I think would be best, but also something along the lines of like exploit or one of those other damage ones would also be great too. You can even take more DR if you really want that as well. Then we have X-Files here. So this is not just going to be important for our poison, but you'll see once we get to the abilities what I kind of think about this thing. So we'll kind of put a pause on this for a second, but X-Files is great since it came out. It just procs a ton of different elemental kind of explosions, basically ends up doing a ton of damage. And then we have trick shot here, pretty classic. So we get to the 2 additional arrows, and obviously to do less damage, we're able to spread poison around, things like that. So that, and then on our other ring, sorry, obviously this comes that we want lucky hit, crit strike chance, vulnerable, and max life. So then we move over to the gems real quick. Damage over time, not shocking, life in there. And then actually over here, you're gonna want, so whatever 2, so I had lightning, cold, poison here, so then you would want fire and shadow. Right now I just have the diamond, and maybe a diamond too. You just want to cap like your resistance basically from your jewelry. In our specialization, we're still using combo points even though we don't get the bug, because we get a ton of lucky hit with, with penetrating shot, and then with rapid fire, we actually get to fire more arrows and do more damage, which is great. So now for our construct stones. So here are the 2 I went for. So I went for focus fire and I went for tempest. So we'll start with focus fire here. And I should mention, so I don't have either of the uber unique kind of things in here. So the one is the, it's Evernight. Yeah, it's basically like a Shaco stone. This would obviously get thrown in there. I think it's going to be pretty hard to get, so I don't have it in there right away. I will make changes to this as we go. Anyway, so we have focus fire. So this channels a ray of fire onto 2 targets, dealing fire damage to each over 3 seconds. So, along with that, a portion of the skill's damage dealt is applied as cold damage through the frigid support. And then we have dusk here, so and then it also chills them. And that's how we're getting the chill to actually use the frigid finesse, which gives us a 15% multiplicative damage multiplier, which is great. Then we have dusk here, and this does 50% of supported skills damage as shadow damage, and afflicted enemies who attack have a 20% chance for the attacks to be interrupted. Sounds pretty good. And then we have arching. We have actually on both of these. I believe it should work with both of these as far as we know. Kind of theory crafting a little bit. Obviously we'll update it as we go, but supported skill can hit 10 additional enemies. So we want this to hit as many enemies as possible. And my thinking is I have X-Files right here. So I want as many different types of dot damage. So we have fire, we have cold, we have shadow, and then obviously our poison, and we also have poison down here, which we'll get to. So there's a ton of different ways to just proc X-Files and just do just a ton of dot damage. So we'll see if this works with these. I don't see why it wouldn't, because we're doing damage over time, but you know, obviously there could be some things to be worked out. And over here is probably, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, probably the most interesting ability, I would say, or whatever, stone, governing stone. So this tempest, so you electrically charge an enemy, causing it to deal damage to themselves an additional each second over time. If the enemy is killed, tempest spreads to another enemy, gaining additional time and bonus damage. These bonuses are also applied if tempest is reapplied onto the same enemy. So this should just be basically a big damage increase. Then we're popping poison on here too to do even more poison damage and spread poison around, because that helps with attack speed, that helps with damage reduction, things like that. So that's very good, and also does damage. Then we have right here, this is the one that's kind of like the barber heart. So any damage caused when the support skill is registered, damage explodes at 50% effectiveness when the target dies as fire damage. Again, another way we can proc X-Files and do a ton of damage. And then again, the arching, because we want it to hit hopefully as many enemies as possible. Again, I'm not sure if it'll work on this. It should. It would seem to, but obviously it's not a must. So that is the build that we're looking at. Okay? So we should be fast, we should be agile, we should be able to do a ton of damage, we should be super defensively strong for a rogue. Our defenses should be very nice. So I think this build is going to be awesome. And this is with no uber uniques. We have 2 regular uniques in here. And I think this build is going to be great. Obviously, we'll do some tweaking. We don't know exactly how all these things work. But just to kind of show you, if I move this over here, just to kind of show you. So I'm actually just, this is actually a character I have I used this character in season 1, and now it's just sitting in the Eternal Realm with all crap in here. But I have an eagle horn. All my stuff is really crappy. because this was before the 825 gear, so it's all terrible. I still have the penitent greaves on, you know, just not set up at all. But just to show you kind of how the build works, where is, I went to the wrong spot. I'm gonna go over here. We're just gonna pop in here just to show you. And again, this is like not optimized at all. I'm missing like everything on it, quite frankly. But we can kind of just get an idea on how it works. If we just want to ride over here. And I just think this build will be a true do-it-all. Be able to absolutely wipe mobs. You'll be fast. You should be defensively strong. You should be agile. And you should be able to melt bosses too with the combo of rapid fire and poison imbue, which is super strong. So we're in the dungeon here. Hop on this. And we're going to come up. Some enemies here, and you can see as we just shoot this thing around, and keep in mind this is going to be making enemies vulnerable right now, and like I said, I'm doing like no damage because my gear is terrible and not set up for this at all. But as we just shoot this, look at just all the AoE and poison flying around, and then if I can just try to like focus one of them, but then if we do the rapid fire, this like I said, it's just one of the best single target abilities in the entire game. So the combo of it is just super nice, and I think it's going to be pretty just nutty. And we have super high lucky hit, and especially when we get combo points for our, what's it called? For our penetrating shot. Oops, I can't even see what I'm doing. We should be able to just get a ton of lucky hit. Like, look at that. Look at the mob clear potential. I don't even know how. I'm freezing things through my frigid finesse. But yeah, I think this is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be one of the best builds in the game. It was actually really, like I said, it was really strong. It was the first rogue build to clear the tier 25 of Avatar 0, actually. I don't think a lot of people know that. There was some, you know, funkiness going on with, what's it called? Like, snapshotting and, sorry, I'm not paying any attention. With snapshotting and, like, switching skills around. But that was basically every class had that going on. But you can see how quickly we're able to spread poison around with our little, level 700 weapon instead of 925. So this build should be really good here. I could focus like this vampire guy. If we want to hit him with the rapid fire, it's just truly one of the best single target abilities in the game. And this is with what's my damage at? It's like 9k. It's ridiculously bad. But yeah, that was just kind of a quick showcase. In the Eternal Realm here, obviously no powers, anything like that, and I know these are just level 100 monsters, and it doesn't look like I'm doing that much. Like I said, I have none of the builds set up properly at all, and we have gear that's like 100 levels lower than it should be. So this thing should be pretty nutty, honestly, once we get into Season 3, and I think it's going to be very fun to play. Range rogues have been a little neglected, obviously in favor of twisting blades. But I think this build will be able to, like I said, do it all right from the beginning. Shouldn't be too hard to scale. You shouldn't need, crazy gear to get up and running really well. And then once we start getting Ubers and things like that, we can obviously throw that on there and make it even better. But, I mean, that's the build. As far as the leveling guide, too, so what I'm going to actually recommend is I'm going to have the leveling guide with the poison imbue. What I would actually probably recommend, though, early on in the game is to actually switch out the poison imbue for shadow imbue. It's really good early on, but then it falls off heavily. But what it does is it just creates a bunch of explosions. Everything blows up. And it makes it one of the better leveling builds actually in the game. And I had 3 points here. Oh, I'm missing the points into Malice here. But the one I have on the D4 Builds website is what I want to go with, I think. And like I said, as changes were made, that will constantly be updated. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, if you want to just see the single target of rapid fire is just nuts, and you can just obliterate enemies. And this is, like I said, super weak, super low damage, but you could apply so much poison imbue and you can just melt single targets. And then this thing is just bouncing everywhere. We get crazy lucky hit, so we keep our poison imbue up, and then will be healing constantly through this right here. So I don't even think this is the highest it goes. This is only level 800. I think you can get this up to like 1400 healing. This is obviously for each enemy damage. So I think you'll be guaranteed to, heal for at least 4 something. But then you can get up to, like I said, I forget exactly what it is. But you should be getting a ton of healing. And then you'll also be getting the procs from this. And because our lucky hit is so high, and because we're going to end up, like my current damage increase is not a lot because I know I'm a lot of vulnerable on this. We're going to pump that thing up. And we should be able to get a pretty nice victimized pop. It's not going to help so much with bossing. But the way they changed this, so this was the best one by far. But this is going from 40 down to 10. So I don't think that's worth it. And again, we don't have a way to heal. Like in Season 2, we had a dying, which was fantastic for a rogue since you attack so fast. You just kept your health up. Siphoning Strikes isn't great on a range build. Momentum is for Cutthroat. Precision is one I thought about. But this mainly, they're actually changing this a bit, but it still is mainly doing crit damage. And we're using Poison Abuse, so we're not critting. We are, but that's not where our damage is coming from. And then we have the exposure here for the traps. We're not doing traps. One thing I should mention is I was trying to get Caltrops in this build. Didn't really think it was plausible what would actually have to happen. We are going to be using I think I mentioned it, the thing to get double Shadow Steps, so we'll get 2 of them to keep us unstoppable. But we would have to drop Dash, would be the only thing we could realistically drop. And I don't think giving up the mobility is worth it for Caltrops as much as I want to use it. And as much as I even liked it before it's getting buffed, it is a nice damage increase, but I think the mobility will be better off with. I think our damage should be fine. So anyway, that's the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I will have the link in the description. I'll have it updated with anything else we might come across, and even any new information before the season. Then when I start grinding it when the season comes out, we'll be updating the build constantly. So I'll post videos updating it and also check out the build, see if there's any changes on the D4 Builds website. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this build kind of carries you through Season 3. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.